My name is Stella Peaches and I'm from the metropolis of Denver. I am in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So hello from New Mexico. And I'm going to be presenting to you guys new ideas to help build and sustain our membership. I'm going to be talking about membership in the time of COVID. Next slide, please, Amy.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay. We just go with the flow. Don't worry about it. You're doing great. You're going to hear many ideas today that have been around for a very long time. They'll be presented in such a way that hopefully makes you look at gatherings differently to help you create collective meanings one gathering at a time. I used a book from Priya Park called The Art of Gathering, and I've sort of condensed my presentation. So if you have time, there's a TED Talk video listed on the slide, and there's also a picture of her book. It's amazing, and it helped me change my perspective on a lot of things. So next slide, please. So what we're talking about is transforming your meetings. Everyone is used to our normal meetings where everyone just goes in and we have the same old thing over and over again. So my first idea is that you have to have a clear purpose. Be very specific about what you will be meeting about. Especially during this time, people's time is more valuable than ever. And ladies, I hate to tell you, but it's not always the more the merrier. The question we should be asking ourselves is, who helps fulfill our mission and purpose? Does everyone remember the circles that Philoptochos had at one time? They were different circles for different groups. For example, young mothers, young professionals, baking committees, fundraising committees, etc. Not everyone has to be at every meeting. Not every meeting fulfills everyone's purpose, and we do not have to have Bob at every meeting. Now you're wondering, what is Bob? Bobs are those people that we are obligated to invite every single time. They go everywhere, and sometimes they really are there just because they're there. So remember, we don't always have to have Bobs. The second thing is settings make a difference in how people react in your meetings. For example, people have a different posture if you're in the courtroom or on your living room couch. Pick a meeting place that suits your meeting. And ladies, have fun with your meeting places. There's nothing that says you have to have it at the church office or in the hall every single time. Also, as Christy mentioned yesterday, people want a purpose. Having the same old meeting with no real focus is terrible communication to our members. There's no room for a president or a meeting host to be unprepared. Have an agenda and stick to it. Have rules, stay on point, and have fun. Next slide, please. So how do you transform your meetings? One back. There we go. We're going the wrong way.
Oops. I'm just going to start again. I'm sorry.
That's fine. We're on number 4.
My keyboard is taking on a life of its own.
That's okay. Okay, how to transform your meetings. You have to prepare for your meeting long before your meeting starts. For example, if we were having this in person, I would have ideas of people sitting by numbers of their choice. They would pick up a number from a bowl outside the room, and then they would sit at that table. I would have people enter the room into an alternate reality, changing up the room with a different theme. You play music, you do things that are consistent with your theme. You don't have the same old meeting room that you have all the time. Just like preparing for your meetings is important, do not be afraid of creating good controversy. Good controversy is considered heat. We're building relationships, and we can do that even with good controversy. If you don't talk about the difficult things, you will never be able to accomplish what you want and what you need to get done. These last 2 days, everyone's been talking about relationships and how, even though we don't agree, we should always listen to others, respect and validate people's opinions. It's always about listening, respecting, and validating everybody in our membership. Next slide, please. Finally, you have to learn how to say goodbye. I know everyone thinks that's kind of a funny slide, but we all like to talk and visit, and yet there comes a time when we must say goodbye. You must learn how to say goodbye. Just like your beginning, your end should be transformative. The purpose is to connect our gatherings back to our daily lives. For example, one meeting I closed with, how will you spread the gift of Philoptochos? And how will you bring what we did today back to your everyday life? That could be a closing for us at this convention. How will you bring what we've done these last 2 days back to your chapters and back to your everyday life? Next slide, please. As Metropolitan Nicholas mentioned yesterday, we must be a friend to everyone. We find different ways to connect, reach out, and serve. The world may not look like we thought it normally would. Look at us, we're having a virtual convention. Who would have imagined that back in January when you were toasting in 2020? You thought this was going to be a great year, and it may still turn out to be wonderful, but it's not what we thought it would be. Finally, during these difficult times, we usually turn inward, but in order to truly heal, we must turn outward. And we heard all these stories today from our speaker on the opioid addiction and how he just wanted to be seen. He wanted people to see him. So we cannot have people turn inward. We must turn outward and talk to each other and care for each other. And finally, we as a national Philoptochos have been less concerned with growing our membership numbers, and we've been more intent on tending to our numbers and parishes in our communities. We've been trying to help everybody, and we have not been worried about growing our numbers. Next slide, please. Ladies, I was visiting with my doctor for a routine checkup, and I asked him about COVID. And he said it was like the Spanish flu of 1918. He mentioned to me while talking about COVID, it's not going anywhere. We need to change the way we live. That made me think, and I shared the idea with a fellow Metropolis board member, and we had an aha moment. It's not going anywhere, and neither are we. For nearly 90 years, Philoptochos has mobilized whenever there is a call for help, just like we have been since March when the pandemic started. Next slide, please. We are Philoptochos strong, and we are not going anywhere. Next slide, please. Now I put up the mission statement, and I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but I do want to point out the last line, which says that we must perform all of our work, our biblical work as well as our business work, with discretion, courtesy, and kindness. This is our foundation, ladies, but how you gather is entirely up to you. I had envisioned small breakout groups in Cleveland, but we had to adapt to the times. I see all of you. It is a different way that I see you, but I see all of you. As Tony Hoffman mentioned in his talk today, he wanted someone to see him for who he was. We need to make sure we see our members, be innovative, and gather meaningfully. Next slide, please. And as practitioners in this field, we need to be creative and bold in how we are gathering. That's a quote from Priya Parker, which is what we've been doing here for the last 2 days. We've been creative and we've been bold because we're online and we're doing this even though we're sitting all day.